Hello, and welcome to episode 232 of The Joy of Coding. How's it going? My name is Mike Conley. We're going to be hacking on some Firefox stuff today. It's so good to have you here, so good to see you. Let's get started. No further ado. Let me just change to my screen. Right, today is November 18th, 2020. A reminder, no plan survives breakfast. If this is your first time seeing this stream, just a quick sort of a sense of the flavor of what you're getting yourself involved in here. This is a stream where I'm going to be working on Firefox things, and I don't have any of it really pre-planned. I don't have the solutions figured out already. I'm going to be doing software development in the raw, but I'll try and speak aloud while I'm doing it. So things can go wrong. I might get stuck. I might get sidelined. I might get rat-holed down some false alley, and then I have to back out again. Like, we might make no progress today, or we might fix stuff. Who knows? But that's all part of the game. The second thing is that the agenda that we're looking at is something that you have access to. If you're watching this on the new Era Mozilla, it should be in like the links area, wherever that is. I honestly don't know where that is, but there's some way you can just click around until you find links. If you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the video description. And if you're watching this on Twitch, then the link to the agenda is going in here. Actually, Okris, that'd be a really great idea is if there was a bot sitting in the Twitch chat that just would echo back the agenda. Same thing with the Matrix back channel, because also I am sitting in the Matrix back channel for the live hacking room and Mozilla's Matrix instance. And if you're not sure what that is, it's an alternative to the Twitch chat. I'm in it even whenever I'm not streaming. So if you want to join me there are instructions on how to do that here in the agenda. Feel free to drop in and ask a question, and we'll see if I can answer it. The other thing I want to point out is that there is an episode guide. So the episode guide is completely viewer-driven, viewer-written. We're up to 227 episodes. I actually believe that there are a couple waiting for us in the pull request queue. Let's actually take a look at some of those today. The episode guide is something that is, you can add your own episode guides. You can extend and add addenda to the episode guides if there are notes or corrections, or you want to expand on something. I will pretty much just merge everything that comes in because it's for you. The episode guide is for you, the viewers. SmurfD is one of our prolific contributors to the episode guide. Let's take a look at what's going on here. They're adding episodes 228 to 229, and we've got two files being changed here. So let's take a quick peek. So yeah, October 14th. That was episode 228. That's right. And we'll make sure that the links are correct. This was using the new Era Mozilla. So hopefully, yeah, 228, October 14th. That's correct. And then the agenda, we'll make sure that the episode is correct. Yeah, that all looks good. Topics. We're using the new Era Mozilla, using the old repeater. We're using, this is when we did some stuff with Camtasia and video editing and trying to use FFmpeg. We actually succeeded in coming up with some videos with timestamps on them for comparisons, which is nice. And then the coming from JavaScript land is UTF-16. Okay, so I'm going to quickly fix a typo there. Strings coming from JavaScript land is UTF-16 encoded, is what I'll say. And yeah, the rest of that looks pretty great. So thank you for that. Commit. And then the other file here was 229, which was October 21st. That's correct. We'll once again check out the links here. This is just a really sort of quick and dirty review. The agenda, make sure that that's right. Yep. Again, we were making sure that the new Era Mozilla was working, and apparently YouTube wasn't working that time in episode 228, so we made sure that YouTube worked. We talked about SpiderMonkey and Warp, which is recently... So Firefox 83 just rolled out the door yesterday. Yesterday was November 17th, and that's the 83 release. If you are on the release channel, you will have Warp enabled, which is a modification to the SpiderMonkey JavaScript engine, which you should notice a substantial increase in speed on certain websites, JavaScript heavy websites. I think Reddit is the one that people bring up as an example all the time. But if you're curious about how that works, there's this really excellent blog post about, what warp is, how it works. Like, this is a real deep dive on the Hacks blog on it. So let me add an entry. So on Spider Monkey warp, TLDR faster now in Firefox 83 on JS heavy sites. Okay, so you should check that out if you're curious about how warp works. Let's see, we did a bunch of, we're working on tests, and we worked on some WebRTC stuff. That's another thing that recently went out in Firefox 83 actually, is if you are on Windows, you will notice that when you're sharing streams over WebRTC, your camera, your microphone, your screen, etc., you should get icons in your system tray now. And if you are on Windows or Mac OS, when you share your display, you'll get an indicator saying whether or not you're sharing your display. So there you go. I was asking about ideas for episode 250. I guess we're slowly creeping up on episode 250. I mean, we got a ways to go. Do feel free to let me know. I haven't gotten too many ideas yet for episode 250. Let me know. We were talking about MozFab possibility. There's a typo there. I'm going to quickly edit this. Possibility to pull from try. Don't try this from home, kids. Yeah, that's right. It's correct. You might need try server access to even read from try. Mock package will create. You don't actually need try server access to read from try. You can pull. It's the only reason that I think it asked me for my keys and my authentication was because I have a key associated with try, because I can push to try. But if you can't push to try, even if you can't, you can still pull. Like, the repository is publicly exposed. You can still pull down from it. Right. Okay, this looks great. I'm going to merge this. First of all, I have to create that one change. And then we're going to merge this in. I'm going to say, like, this is approved. Submit review. I don't actually know if I needed to do that, but we're going to merge this in. Confirm, and we're going to say thanks. Thank you to SmurfD for that excellent contribution. And there's another one here. This is episode 230. We'll do this again. We'll try and make this quick. This has episodes 227 and 228 in here as well, because it was based on top of that last commit. But thankfully, I think I can only show the one, 230 and 231. I guess we're getting two, not just 230. We're getting 230 and 231, which is nice. So we'll quickly do this. October 28th. That is correct. Links. Yep. And then this link. Yep. Okay. I sort of hyped up my friend Barn. You should check that out. He recently did a new video for From Out of Nowhere from Faith No More. He did a really excellent cover. You should check it out. And one by a cover of Hurt by 9 Inch Nails, which I thought was pretty great. Yeah, we were looking at that. We didn't make much headway there. I talked about how web browsers work, Firefox front engineer, CSS is hard. Oh yeah, we were talking about layering, stacks. Stack. What was the stacking rules? That was a really fun, interesting episode where I learned a lot. Okay. And the other one was November 4th. That was the week before last. I skipped last week. I think that is correct. Yes. And then we'll just double check these links. We're almost through this part, and then we'll get to work. Again, thank you so much, SmurfD, for these contributions. The past thanks you, the present thanks you, the future thanks you. Yeah, we fixed this one, the snippet wrongly being displayed. We fixed it, and that has landed and went out in 84, which just got uplifted to beta. I talked about my blog post about home. We should put an apostrophe there for a possessive. Mike's blog. We're talking about MDN. Thunderbird team uses TypeScript script maybe. Great. That all looks amazing. Thank you so much, SmurfD. So we're going to approve this. I noticed a link just got dropped in the Twitch chat about some kind of oxidation plan for Mercurial. Now, I am not familiar with that exact plan, but if I know what oxidation means, my guess is, I'm going to make a prediction, is that Mercurial is planning on transitioning more of their code from Python and maybe C to Rust. Let's just check that out. So this is the link from Ocris. Using Rust and Mercurial. Haha, I was right. Oxidation makes sense. Rust. So news flash, everyone. News flash. Mercurial is planning on integrating more Rust into the software stack. Maybe you knew that, maybe you didn't, but if you didn't, now you do. Yeah, Mercurial is mainly a Python app. It uses some C, but there's like a bunch of performance overhead, that I know, and then they started to think about what they could do to, you know, they go through, it looks like they're going through a bunch of the different sort of optimizations they've tried, and like why, you know, why they want to try moving more and more away from Python, mainly for, you know, the performance overhead. And then will Rust be required to use Mercurial? Is not to make Rust a requirement to use Mercurial. Probably it's required to build it. Will there be features only implemented in Rust that therefore require Rust? Yeah, probably. Oh, or maybe they do mean that, like, you might not, like, no, I have no idea what this means. But it looks like this is relatively, wow, this is a couple years old. Last updated in 2018. That was 2 years ago. Is this still happening? Is this still happening? Who knows? Who knows? All right, well, interesting news. And our episode guide should now be up to date. There's episode 231, ba-boom. So we're good to go. Let's move on. Before we continue, I did want to mention that next week I'm on holiday. So there is no episode next week. I encourage you to take your time back. If you were planning on watching this episode, take your time back, do something positive, maybe, you know, help a neighbor while maintaining distance. So this is what I was hoping to work on today. So the About Home Startup Cache is this thing that we've been, you know, we've talked about on and off for a couple weeks. There was that blog post that I linked to. I think it's the most recent blog post on my blog about the About Home Startup Cache. And basically, it's a mechanism that allows us to start up the browser faster, and that's great. And it's on by default in Nightly. Also great. One of the things that we have identified, because it's on by default in Nightly, is that there are situations where on shutdown, we don't shut down correctly. There is a shutdown blocker. How do I explain this? We have a framework within the Mozilla, like the Firefox stack, called Async Shutdown. Basically, it allows us to block shutting down while we perform some tasks. Like, usually it's writing to disk. I mean, that's the only thing really you want to do at shutdown to block shutdown, is persist state to disk. And then once that's done, you can just exit immediately. And so that's what the About Home Startup Cache will detect whether or not it hasn't updated the cache, and it should. And if it does, it adds a shutdown blocker and then, you know, flushes the cache to disk before, you know, proceeding with the shutdown. And it looks like you can get into a situation where the shutdown occurs, or the shutdown is blocked permanently, like that the job of persisting the cache to disk never completes. And so we just wait. And the Async Shutdown framework is designed such that after about a minute or so, if you still haven't completed the shutdown, it will just crash the browser with, you know, diagnostics on where you, like, what async shutdown job you were waiting for. And that's what this is. This is a crash that was caused inside of the async shutdown due to a timeout on the quit application granted observer notification. And it was the About Home Startup Cache, and we were in the phase writing the cache. And so I've been investigating, you know, like, what is going on? Why is this taking so long to shut down? And I think I've got a lead on it. I'd tried a number of different attempts. Like, I'd tried I had hit on a couple of different theories on what could have been happening here, and I landed a number of patches, but neither of which caused the crash to go away. Like 2 patches have landed, and you can see in this little graph here, I'm not sure if it's very clear, but this is a graph of crash signatures, and you can see that like this started happening right about when we like on the end of October, when we turned on the About Home Startup cache by default on nightly. We don't have too many crashes per day, like only 25, 26, but it didn't drop off. It has not dropped off since we landed these patches. Like the most recent one was 9 days ago, I believe. So that would have been November 9th. And you can tell if you look at the dates that are flashing up here that on November 14th, for example, we were still getting a bunch of crashes. So these patches did not fix it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to reproduce it locally, so those patches were speculative, where I was like, oh, maybe this will be it. This is a strict improvement. And then, hang on, this is severity. They want to add severity. I'm going to add that. This is currently not enabled by default outside of Firefox Nightly. So setting severity to NA. Oh, and I should have probably removed the need info from Scott, who was need info about that. So anyways, I have a theory now about what is going on here. Oh, I see some chat in here from Okris. Finally, shutdown timeout will go away. Winky face. So we've actually been making decent inroads on improving shutdown in Firefox. If you look at our telemetry over the past, let's look at a range of since nightly. Let's look at the evolution since nightly 76, and then we'll look at the shutdown probe. We can see what's been going on. Shutdown. This, what we're looking at, the telemetry dashboard, you have access to. This is public. So we're gonna look at, what is it, shutdown duration, I think. So this, what was being charted here, was being graphed, is the median shutdown duration of the browser in nightly. And you can see that like things got kind of worse and then a lot better. We made some pretty decent inroads starting in Firefox 80, in nightly at least, and then it's been slowly trending down into the right. So we have been making improvements to shutdown. Same with startup, actually. If you take a look at startup, we should see it's not as stark, I think, not as yeah, here, like it's kind of like steps going down, but we've been slowly but surely improving the time to start up. And if we look at first paint, I wonder how first paint is doing. Hopefully no surprises. First paint's been pretty steady. Haven't actually made too many inroads on first paint. But it ebbs and it flows. But getting to About Home, shutting down, we've been making improvements there. All right, so the good news about this crash, so I was telling you before that like we were landing speculative patches, had no idea what to do, we were just guessing. And then a similar, or a bug was associated with this one on one of our internal benchmarks, where we call it Talos performance tests, was crashing and had a similar result in that we were stuck waiting for writing the cache at shutdown. And that was really, really interesting because it seemed like these two things might be related. Like this might give us a clue as to why the parent process is crashing. And the reason my hypothesis is that it's actually the content process is crashing. The About Home startup cache process is crashing, and then a new one is getting created in the midst of us waiting for in the midst of us waiting for the cache to be created. We do the wrong thing effectively. We end up destroying the old one, creating a new content process, And then the code that was supposed to deal with the crash case treats the new About Home startup cache content process as if it was the old one. It goes, well, I originally thought this thing had crashed, but I have this process around, so we didn't crash. So I guess we didn't. Let's not resolve any kind of promise here. And then that causes, us to wait forever for a message that will never arrive. Ockers asks, I guess cache means SQLite. In this case, no. The cache that we're generating, SQLite is a storage system that we use for things like the places database, like for your library and your history, we use an SQLite database. But the performance characteristics of SQLite are actually pretty bad for things that you want to use immediately on startup, which is what the About Home startup cache is for. Like, we evaluated it. We evaluated IndexedDB, which is built on SQLite. Both we tossed out because the startup characteristics are just awful. What we ended up using was the HTTP cache, which is what we generally use for, caching your network stuff that, HTTP requests. The response bodies can indicate in the headers what their cache lifetime is, and we can store that stuff in a cache. And we were reusing that cache for the About Home document. All right. So where am I going with this? Well, I have a patch kind of half underway, but it's really sloppy, and I want to clean it up. That's what I'm hoping we can do today. Is we can clean up my sloppy patch. I might want to explain what it's doing. It fixes the crash when we're running the test, and so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm trying to think of like what the best approach is to make this easiest to work on. So it's on my Linux machine. Let me sign into my Linux machine. Boop doot 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 doot. Doot 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 doot. Oh, come on! Doot 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 doot. I know I'm doing it wrong. Hold on a second. Wrong again? There we go. Finally logged in. All right. Let's see here. I have a patch in projects. I think it's just like this massive uncommitted garbage. Ocris is like, just use SSH keys. Face. No. I am using. What is it? I am using an SSH key, but the SSH key is password protected. Like, you need a passphrase to open the SSH key. So a bunch of that was diagnostic stuff. Oh, yeah, this. So there were a number of things that I investigated as part of this. I had a bunch of logging. Just trying to remember how this worked. A bunch of cursing in my log messages. I think I was like very upset at the time. Yeah, how do I want to explain this? Well, I think what I want to do is clean up this patch as it is, post it as a work in progress, and transfer it to my MacBook. Like, get it off of this virtual machine, bring it over to this machine to like further refine it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable certain parts of it, undo certain parts of it. Actually, what I can do is probably commit certain parts of it. I'm not sure if you've ever seen this before, HG commit interactive. That allows us to pick and choose the parts that we want to keep. And that's what I think I'll do. And this is why we want to use Rust, is because that startup was really slow. So I don't want that part, so I'm going to turn that off. I don't want this part. I do want this part. I do want that part. I do want that part. Yes, yes, logging. Yes, okay, so I want the rest of those changes. At least for now, anyways. I probably want this stuff. The state transitions. I don't want that dump in there. I don't want this dump. I don't want this dump. I don't want that dump line. Or that one. Or that one. Or that one. Or that one. Or this one. Or this one. Send in streams, mate! I must have been watching some Australian sketch show. Remove that one. Alright, I'll get rid of that for now. I'll need to do something with that empty else, but I'll remove that line. And then here, we don't need any of these changes. And here, I don't want those changes. So we're going to commit that. Anti-Donna, that's what I was watching. That's the sort of the sketch show I was watching by three Australian comedy sketch people. It's on Netflix. Danny Colin asks, who needs to clean up code when you can simply add a message like this one? Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. This is undoubtedly the most ugly program in the distribution. It is one of the first serious programs ported and still has a lot of historical baggage. Ideally, there would be a general TTY widget and then blah, 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 sub-widgets. Trying to clean things up. A lot of work to do. If you are porting this to a machine that has problems with overlapping B copies, watch out. Wow. That's not the worst. Below is the original README for X term for your amusement. I've seen other commit messages that are similarly hilarious. Like, this is not a place of honor. Not a place. Yeah. This place is not a place of honor. No highly esteemed deed is commemorated here. Nothing valued is here. What is here was dangerous and repulsive to us. This message is a warning about danger. That I've seen in commit messages. So I'm going to create a work in progress patch for which one? This is the bug. Make about home startup cache handle content process crashes better. I really need to explain that more, but not for now. Okay, so now we're going to revert all these other changes that we don't need anymore. And then we're going to find that empty else brace, and we're going to just remove it. Yeah, it was in set state inside of about new tab service right here. Set state. All right. Expected exclamation mark equals equals. I guess, is that what they use in that file? Okay. Well, I won't deal with that for now. What I will do is I will post this mozfab submit tip work in progress. Go! Never heard of it. Mozfab submit. I don't need the dash tip. Go! Let's go! I can actually make Mario say that, I think. Oh, he says, here we go! I need let's go. Where's that?
It's me, Mario.
I can't do my work. That's right.
All right. Here we go. So we have our half-baked patch posted here. Very much a work in progress that we need to now clean up. And maybe even break into individual parts, because each of these is like a different strategy. For dealing with, like, it's different layers of like semi-related fixes. And maybe the first fix is this one inside of the About New Tab service, which is making it so that we transition from state to state. Like, we make sure that, like, we don't accidentally, if two About homes attempt to load at the same time, that only the first one tries to, like, the one that wins the race for loading first is the one that uses the cache, and the other one loses the race, and we don't load the cache there. All right, so let's maybe factor that out first. What I'll do is I'm going to pull this patch down. Where am I? This is my MacBook. Let me just see what's on top. Wait for pip windows, some picture-in-picture stuff that a student's working on. I'm going to update central. I have some uncommitted changes. What are they? Are they important? They are not important. Revert them. Okay. Update to central. And then we're going to pull down the patch. Alright, so we've got our patch applied. I think I'm going to start splitting out each of the three strategies, or each of the three fixes. I think it's three. At least two. The first one is just the changes to About New Tab service. So I'm going to uncommit that. That's going to be one chunk. I'm going to call it something else. So this is like ensure the About Home startup cache can only be used by one document. Okay. And I'm not even sure yet that we want to use a state machine for this, because what I was doing is, like, I transition from state to state, and I don't even think that that's secure enough. Like, I don't think it does what we want. So maybe that's the first thing we'll look at. So what I'll do is I'm actually going to reorder these. And then I'm going to Scooby-Doo-Doo-Doo-Doo-Doo-Doo. Then I'm going to work on this patch. So previous, we'll build it. Let's make sure I'm doing artifact builds right now. We'll build, and then let's go over here and take a look at the, here, I'm going to close a bunch of these files. I don't think these are relevant anymore. Don't save. No, go away. Don't care. Okay. So we're going to open up About New Tab service. So this is the file that knows, like, oh, you in the content process, you're attempting to load About Home. Let's check to see if we have a cache stream that we can use for you. And yeah, I was doing this, like, state machine, which I don't think is the right move anymore. Here's what I'm thinking. Let me just start writing this down. I don't think the state machine strategy I've started with in about new tab service is like resilient enough. Just because we've transitioned from, where are the different states? Unconsumed to page consumed. Page consumed doesn't necessarily mean that the thing trying to load the next stage is supposed to be allowed to. It really just gates what comes out, not who can ask for it. What comes out of the cache. All right. So what am I thinking? Suppose we're the browser is starting. The initial about home document is requested. A privileged about content process is created. The cache streams are sent to it early in its lifetime before the request to load the document arrives. The request to load the document arrives. Okay, the first thing that will be asked for is the page. The first thing that will be asked for is the page, the markup. What should we do? The about home startup what do we call it? The about home startup cache child. We'll notice this. Notice it has so hang on a second. What do we know about NSI input streams? Because that's what we have here. We have some NSI input streams. Which is available. That's really it. Like, this is how you can check to see whether or not there's anything there, is you check available, and it might throw. Might even be closed. Notice it has trying to think, how do you gate this? You maybe want a mixture of a state machine and something that will make sure that whatever loaded the page is also what is asking to load the script. I think that's what I want here. So the idea of the about home startup cache child is in state unconsumed. That happens here. Unconsumed. Okay. The request to load the document arrives. Because the cache child is in unconsumed, it adds the document object loading the markup to a weak set, a local weak set. Should only ever have one document in that weak set, but okay. We load it, adds it to a local weak set, transitions to state, page consumed, and returns the stream. Unless error. So if we transition to page consumed, we should only do this if we check to see if we can get the page stream. If so, if not, transition to error state and return null. Otherwise, transition to page consumed state and add document object to weak set. Okay, document loads. So that happens here. This is for the document load. Then the document has a line which loads the script for the page. We re-enter the about home startup cache child, sees the request for the script, and ensures it's in the page consumed state. If not, enters the error state and returns null. Also, if so, checks if the script content can be read. There's the error state, returns null. I guess we should ensure that both, like we should check to see if we can get the page stream and the script stream during the first time, because if we can only get one and not the other, that's going to be broken. We don't want to load half of them. We want to load both. So during the first run, like the loading of the document, we'll check both. Transition to error state if either one of them we can't read. Otherwise, we transition to page consumed, add the document to the weak set, ensures it's in the page consumed state, checks that the document requesting the script is in the weak set. If not, returns null and enters error state. If so, returns script stream and enters page and script consumed. Oh, looks like there's some spam inside the Twitch. Feel free to just boot that jerk. Hammer ban hammer. Exercise your powers, you wonderful people in the Twitch chat. Okay, and once we're consumed, we're done. That's it. Okay, and I think that's mostly what we had here. Unavailable. It's like we haven't even initialized yet. The streams aren't available. Unconsumed, if we have the streams. Page consumed, page and script consumed, and error. That sounds right. When we initialize with the streams, we make sure that we go into the unconsumed state. Page consumed. So we want to make sure that this state is greater than if we're greater or equal to that, then return null. Or this dot state equals this dot states dot unavailable, return null. That shouldn't be possible. If we were knitted, then we would have entered the unconsumed state. So actually, I can remove this condition. Okris, I can give you the power too. Why don't I give you capabilities? How do I give you capabilities? Got some kind of powers. I don't like to feel responsible. Okay. No powers for you then. We check to see if we're a script request. If we are not a script request, I guess I can merge these. If not script request, maybe this will be easier. Request types. Page. Script. Let request type equals if URI.query equals JS cache, then request type equal this dot request type script, otherwise it's this dot request type page. Okay. If I'm hoping this will make it easier. If request type equals this dot request type page and we're unconsumed, we're not unconsumed, and then we could probably merge these and or request type equals this dot request type script and okay, so we're gonna need some comment there. So like if this is a page request, then we need to be in the unconsumed state, since we expect the page request to come first. If this is a script request, we expect to be in if this is a script request, we expect to be in page consumed state, since the page cache stream should have been consumed already. Okay. So if request type equals this dot request type page, yeah, okay, we do check to make sure that they're both are available, and otherwise we transition to state error. If either stream is closed, then we should probably enter state error. initialize this dot request type dot script. I guess we can reverse these. The order does kind of matter. Page consumed, and this is where we'll probably want to like have our weak set. Page consume consumer doc. We can use a weak set. It'd be nicer if we just like had a weak, use a weak reference, I guess. Those can be annoying. A weak set. That might be easier. So consumer doc. So we go down here and we're like, hey, guess what? We got ourselves our page. We're gonna this dot consumer doc add consumer doc. We should make sure we clear that out when we uninit. Actually, maybe there's an even better way instead of having it be a weak set. Consumer inner ID 0. We'll store the inner window ID. Consumer inner ID equals, I'm pretty sure that the load info, NSI load info interface includes the document. It's got the principal, the loading document. Okay. So can we get the document.webidl? Inner window? No. Load info. Load info.document. Loading document. Get loading document. Does anyone use this thing? Okay, here we go. We get the document URI. get at the inner window? Inner window ID. That's something I can get from the, ooh, from the principal. Oh no. Oh, here. This is the inner window ID of the window in which the element being loaded lives. This window ID can be 0 if the window is not available. So maybe instead I want it to be -1. Say consumer inner window ID. That's probably easier. Inner window. Consumer inner window ID equals load info dot inner window ID. We're going to do a check here. If request type is the script request, we need to ensure that if and this dot consumer inner window ID is not equal to load info dot inner window ID. Oh, whoops. Some other document is somehow requesting the script, one that didn't originally request the page. This is not allowed. This dot set state, this dot states dot error, return null. Okay. I think that does what we want to do. And then like if state equals this dot states dot error, I just do like console dot error in here. Seems like I can. Console. I think I just get it for free. New tab, child service. It's more like the about home startup cache child. Enter the error state. Could not transition from state. state, this dot state to state. That should probably get shortened down. I wonder if it would prefer this. It will not. Okay. Let's see what this is like. Does this pass our tests? ASMR squeaky door in the background? I didn't even hear it. Wouldn't surprise me. Ooh. ASMR silent dog behind me, just having a nap. All right, let's run our tests and see what happens. Running tests. Will they pass? We'll see. I wonder if they'll pass. Will they pass for me? Will the test pass for me? I'd love it if they pass for me. Will the test pass for me? Nope. Interesting. Are there errors? Console error. Entered error state. Syntax error. Missing after dot operator. What? What is that? We entered, so hold on, let's go back to the very beginning. Find the first error. Okay, first error is here. That's in the test called a basic end to end. Good. Okay. Cache is undefined because we entered an error state. Line 357. Nine. Maybe get cache page channel. Oh, sorry, 357 is here. Maybe get cache page channel 251. We enter the state here because the request type is script and the consumer inner window ID. Let's log here. Versus load info inner window ID. Okay. And we're going to just run the browser basic end-to-end test. Okay, what went wrong? Consumer inner window ID is 0 versus load info inner window ID is this. I see. The inner window ID is not sufficient. When we're loading the document, we might not have the inner window ID yet. Okay. Okay, what if we try our weak set idea though? Or consumer document, no. Start consumer document, no. And then here, consumer inner, I'm going to say consumer document, load info, loading document. Now this is going to be a memory leak, but that's okay. Consumer, if this dot consumer document is not equal load info, loading document. This is a memory leak, I know. Don't worry about it. Because we're holding on to the document, we're just holding a reference to it. What we really want is a weak reference to that document. Okay, that's different. That's not what I expected. $252. Oh, because the error is consumer document is not equal to loading document. Consumer document, loading document. What are these things? Can we also look at the load group? Load info. Group. Oh, missing, this is just garbage. Line 249, missing plus symbol right there. Yeah, that's gonna break the world. Load info. That might be interesting, the browsing context. Stuff on load info. Consumer document is null. Setting consumer document to load info to loading document. Maybe the loading document along with the inner window ID doesn't exist at this point, which would make sense because it doesn't know what kind of document it is, because we haven't actually pulled it off, like pulled any bytes yet, so it doesn't know what kind of document is being created, so the inner window maybe doesn't exist yet, in which case maybe we have to go one level above and look at the browsing context ID. Yeah, that's the story. The loading document doesn't exist yet. Consumer BC. Let's say loading browsing context. Consumer BC. Consumer is not equal to loading document dot browsing context. Consumer BC. Okay. See if that works. You have to go back to the future. Yeah, this what we need is some kind of like, we need quantum effects here. Do some quantum tunneling. Use the, what is it? If we use the quantum eraser, no, because if we know, then the universe won't allow us. No, locality, can't do it. Flux capacitor, that's right. Hey, all right. So we have the browsing context. We can do it with the browsing context. We could also do it with the browsing context ID. And so maybe that's easiest. BC consumer BCID. That's what I'll use. 0. If consumer BCID is not equal to load info dot browsing context ID. All right, let's see if that passes. Okay. I just want to make sure that that's the right call here. Is there any other interfaces we would want to use instead? The principal, the channel. For top level loads, oh, of course. And for loads originating from workers, the loading document is null. Right. That's why that was null before. only when the element being loaded is frame source equal foo. Right. Attributes. All right, I feel pretty good about this, I think. It's a bit of belt and suspenders because I'm actually hard pressed to think of a scenario where some document loads the page and then some other document loads the script. It shouldn't, nothing built in that I can think of would make that possible, but this makes sure it's not possible. So let's commit that. And then maybe we need to add a test for it. Oh, and then there's like a whole bunch of errors. Can you just fix those? Mock lint browser components new tab about new tab service.jsm fixed. Oh boy, look at all this. Looks like it's not fixed it, so we have to do it ourselves. Lovely. 217. Uh, 233. 254. 270. 274. 363. Okay, now are there any other commentary updates we need to do? Responsible if it's only our hand the person with the privilege loads not read from this cache. It is expected that the same browsing context that loads the cached page will also load the cached script. Failed to be enabled with the cache the input streams have no data. This function turns out the caller should fall back to generating the caller should fall back to generating the page dynamically. In the event, this function will be called the ladder returns the cached script. It is expected that the same browsing context. Did I use the what? I should probably put that down here instead. Close the cached page will also load the cached script. Request type is script, and We're not in page consume state. Return null. Okay. Stash the browsing context ID so that when the script stream attempts to be consumed, we ensure that it's from the same browsing context ID, browsing context that loaded the page. Okay. Transitions the about home startup cache child from one state to the next, where each state is defined in this.states. It is expected the states can only be transitioned in escalating order, in increasing order. Otherwise, an error is logged. Okay. Well, I think that's a good start. Let's take a look at the other chunk of fixes. Actually, I think I want to update the commentary too. Sure, used by one document. It is theoretically possible for two about home documents to be loading at the same time during startup. For example, if the user passed in about a series of URLs via the command line, URLs to open, including multiple about homes. We ensure, this patch ensures that only one of those documents gets the cache. The cached streams gets to consume the cached streams. The first one. Only one of those documents. The first to load. Load gets to consume the cache streams. It's a little bit of belt and suspenders, as one of my old bosses used to say. Now, should we add a test for that? How would we test this? You have to race two documents loading at the same time. How would you do it? It's new tab, test. Inject into cache. Maybe I could do that. How does this work? Test that if the pre-existing environment cache sets that can be overwritten with new information. Simulate restart. I guess it reloads the document. Okay. Ensure cache wins race. Trust the privilege will be able to read the bytes and streams sent down. Then it, reloads the document. I think I can write a test for this. What I'll do basically this. I'll inject something in that. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. HG or mock add test browser components new tab test browser about home cache browser 1 BC only, same document maybe as well call it, same document consumer, same consumer. And then we'll HG add it. And we'll edit it. Test that if a page attempts to load the script stream without having also loaded the page stream, that it will fail. Okay, so we're gonna load about home, that it will fail and get the default script. Default non-cache script. We're gonna do this. We need the CSP, otherwise insertions and debug builds. Body. Some page. Some about home page. We're not gonna load the JS cache. I'm gonna say window dot test got test consumer consumed. Cache consumed true. Simulate the restart. And then we're gonna load make sure browser too. We're going to make sure content dot wrapped JS object dot cache consumed doesn't exist. Okay, not that. Should not have found consumed property. And then we'll make sure that it's the actual script. True dynamic. Or maybe this is a better way of doing it. Wave X-rays content. And then what should be in the script. It should just get like the about home document, I think. Let's just wait here and see what it looks like. Set timeout. Let's wait for 50 seconds and see what happens when we actually do this. Same consumer. Show me same consumer. I have a feeling that it should just return. Oh. Error opening the input stream. Invalid file name. Oh, I think I have to mock build faster. But I'm pretty sure what will happen is the request is for the JS cache. Yeah, we'll attempt to get the, we're gonna error out here. We're going to enter this error state, which is what we wanted. So what's here? It's a HTML document. Yeah. And then, yeah, enters the error state. So we're gonna attempting to load the script from the cache should fail and instead load the markup. Tab child. Scripts, load subscript, if debug. Why aren't we entering here is what I want to know. Loading subscript, script. Let's put our sleep here. Because it was just blank. What was the dealio? Whoops. Here we go. Okay. Loading subscript. So it's actually attempting to load it. And then, oh, hold on. Hold on. Okay. Loading about home JS cache. Loading about home JS cache. Should have found cache consume property. So like window.state. What do we have here? Render. New tab render. Render without state. New tab render utils. So yeah, these scripts aren't being loaded. These ones in here. Why not? Saw DOM content loaded. Is our child being loaded? Do I not have a about new tab matches about? Oh, aha, maybe that's why. I think that's why. Saw unexpected token. Oh, whoops. Unexpected token. Huh. Whoop. That should have been a semicolon. Good. Now here's a thing I want to know now, which is if I do this, whenever I load the JS cache, do I need to bail out of this? Like what's going to happen whenever I try and load JS cache? Thank you. Okay, so this is not a... Oh, we entered an error state here. In 247. Oh, because the there was nothing in the cache. I don't know if we should log. I think we might want to remove that log. All right, and now shut down. Load again. Okay, I'm going to turn off the preloader too. Let's do this again. I want to make sure that when we attempt to load the scripts, we don't actually inject the subscripts. Are we correctly? Oh, of course, if the preloader is disabled, then preloader is disabled and we don't use the cache. That's the problem. Yeah, what is this second? I want to know more. Hang on. New tab cache child scripts. What is the URI? What is the URI? What is the path name? Window location. Location about home, and then yeah, it's the preloaded about new tab. So we're okay. Now if I run the test, yeah, okay, that's good. That's what I wanted. Okay. I think I don't want to log errors here. Maybe error is not the right name for the state. It's like failed, unavailable, unconsumed, failed. Okay. Let us now run our tests again. Oh, I should definitely get rid of this timeout and this dump. we insert a script, we inject a script that sets a cache consumed property to true on the window element, will test to ensure that if we try to load the script cache from a different browsing context, that this property is not set. Okay. I think I'm going to end the stream after we make sure that all these tests pass. There's still a little bit left to fix up with this patch, but I will do it outside of the stream. Let us run our tests. The whole suite of About Home Startup Cache tests. Scooby-doo-doo-doo-doo. All right. We did it. We did it, everybody. Okay. That's the first part. The second part of the fix is to make it so that if a new content process gets created, a new privileged about content process gets created, that we just give up. Like if the old one goes away, we just give up, and we don't try and work in the new one. I think that's what we want to do. But I will do that separately. Hey, thank you so much for watching episode 200 and what was this? Episode 232 of The Joy of Coding. I hope that was interesting. There is no episode next week. I'm on holiday. So do something fun for yourself. If you're in the United States, you might be in and around that time enjoying Thanksgiving. I hope you have a good one. I hope it's safe. You know, let's get those cases down. All right. With that having been said, I'm going to call it here. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a great couple of weeks, and I'll see you the week after next. Let me just switch to soundboard and say thank you. Good to see you. Bye-bye. See you soon.